You hear a lot of people online talk about stakes. The stakes aren't world-ending, so boring. Man, Subaru can't even die. There's no stakes. There is a fundamental misunderstanding in online discourse as to what makes stakes, well, stakes. I have a time-honored tradition on this channel of talking about writing terminology as well as dissecting people's actual complaints even though they're using the wrong terminology. So, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe for more. Today, we'll be using ReZero as an example as it is unfairly criticized pretty often for lacking stakes. If you're on this channel for My Hero Academia, just take what I say and apply it to MHA as it's easily transferable. ReZero is a show where the main character has the power to literally subvert death. When he dies, he goes back to a point in time and practically resets the world. Think of a save point in a video game. This might leave you scratching your head. If the protagonist can't die and knows all the events that are coming, how can the reader or viewer be invested in the stakes of the story? Let's talk about what stakes are as a narrative tool. When you first think about stakes, your mind might drift to thoughts about world-ending scenarios or narrative situations that spell doom for society as we know it. Technically, this isn't incorrect. Where the misconception lies is with the idea that this is all stakes are. Let's divide it into two categories: macro stakes and micro stakes. Macro stakes represent the big picture type of scenario, not necessarily focusing on individual characters. As an example, let's imagine a story where an event leading to the freezing of the entire planet is coming. This is a representation of macro stakes, as it's an overarching problem that is pretty independent of characters or their arcs. Micro stakes represent the individual. These are things that are important to the character, whether it be their emotional state, their narrative progression, or their well-being. As an example, let's imagine that a character has big expectations placed on their shoulders. Even if those expectations don't matter in terms of macro stakes, they still matter to our character in the micro stakes. Now, you can't have stakes without building a good foundation for said stakes. You can't throw high stakes at the viewer and expect them to be immediately invested in your characters and world. This can also be a problem that occurs when you frequently raise the stakes or allow no downtime between high stakes plots. Stakes are a constant balancing game of keeping them high enough to keep the consumer interested, while also not making them so high all the time that you neglect to properly develop the stakes, as well as making the viewer numb to high stakes. With these two examples, we can separate between world-ending stakes and character-driven stakes. How does this tie into ReZero and how it handles stakes? The two arcs that I'll be using as an example are Arc 1 and Arc 3, both happening in the first season of ReZero. Starting with Arc 1, a critical viewer might suggest that all stakes are removed the second that Subaru comes back to life. Well, there are no macro stakes at this stage of the story because we aren't familiar with the state of the wider world yet, only a select few characters. However, there are clearly defined micro stakes introduced within the first few episodes. Subaru directly tells the viewer how much this event means to him, how he can't just let Amelia die in that storehouse. He says he could just move on and live life here, but after how much she helped him, how could he live with himself when he's the only one who can stop this? These first few episodes are so compelling to watch from a stakes perspective because we've built a connection with Subaru, and he cares about the stakes at hand. Building investment in and empathy with the characters is a baseline necessity for building stakes. If within the first 60 seconds of ReZero, Subaru wanted to save Amelia instead of us spending all this time with the duo, would it really have meant anything to us? The answer is no, not really. So, while the world of ReZero isn't about to end, we're still invested in the success of Subaru as we care about him and his goals, even if he can't die. This is only speaking from a viewer perspective. If we are to hone in a little bit and think about how stakes work in universe, it's important to remember that Subaru knows just as much about the power he was cursed with as we do. He doesn't know if he can actually save Amelia. Doesn't know if there is a limit to the amount of resets he gets. What if he were to die and try to reset, but nothing happens? Arc 3 takes place around the end of the season and after we spent a lot of time with the recurring cast of the series, meaning that we have built connections to certain characters and have vested interests in their success. Arc 3 is a storyline that masterfully executes not only a macro but also micro stakes. What does it offer in terms of macro stakes? To start things off, Subaru finds out that on a certain date the entire village of Arlem is completely massacred. This adds one horrific tragedy onto his plate. It is later learned that this attack is perpetrated by the Witches Cult, an organization that has the intention of either taking or killing Amelia to use her as a vessel for Satella. The macro stakes increase even more when we find a monstrous Puck bursting out of the mansion, enacting a particular clause of a contract in case of Amelia's death, destroying the world. To make Subaru's life even more hellish, on his way back to the village once again, the fucking white whale shows up and slaughters everyone. The macro stakes of Arc 3 are there: the destruction of Arlem Village, Amelia's death which leads to Puck destroying the world, and the white whale blocking Subaru's path. Sure, these stakes are a big deal, but what makes them even stronger are the bonds Subaru has formed. It was demonstrated how much he cares for the people of Arlem, how much he cares for Amelia, and how dangerous the white whale really is after it briefly deleted Rem from existence. Now, let's talk about the micro stakes. Completely pushing aside character death, Arc 3 represents Subaru at his absolute lowest so far in the anime. Arc 3 started with Subaru pushing boundaries and having an egotistical meltdown with Emilia, effectively ending their friendship. The starting stakes are, I have to repair my relationship with Emilia. He is also publicly humiliated in front of the knights due to his weakness, which increases the stakes to, I have to get stronger. Subaru then returns to Arlem to find the village massacred, which increases the stakes to, I have to save Arlem and kill the witch cultists. He tries to seek help from other royal candidates, but is used and beaten by them. Then one of them mocks his lack of negotiation capability. He gets on the carriage and heads home, then gets destroyed by the white whale, increasing Subaru's personal stakes to, I have to do something about the white whale. The micro stakes for Subaru grow so increasingly large that he buckles and gives up. However, he can return by death and keep retrying, so what's the big deal? Perhaps severing his relationship with his love interest wasn't good for his mental health. Perhaps being publicly humiliated wasn't good for his already strong insecurities. Perhaps going to a village he has grown to love and seeing the townsfolk slaughtered, then watching the same violence happen to one of his closest allies wasn't good for his sanity. Perhaps seeing the white whale slaughter an entire caravan of people and erase the same ally from existence wasn't good for him. The stakes of this arc are not surrounding Subaru's physical death, but his mental deterioration and the destruction of his sanity. Subaru faces nearly insurmountable odds, and what's at stake in the process is his well-being, as evidenced by his giving up and having a meltdown in episode 18, where he strips his character completely bare and reveals everything we've been left to wonder about him. All of this matters and sticks to Subaru despite his capability to literally reset. If anything, that's what makes the situation worse for him, as Subaru is being subjected to these traumas both big and small more than once, when most people would probably cave in just one go. Return by death simply makes it so that death and the cessation of existence aren't what's at stake. Not that nothing is at stake. Death is not the only stake that matters. I hope this video helped teach you about stakes and how they can be used as a narrative device, even in a story where your main character pretty much cannot die and can reset as many times as he wants. If you like videos like this, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to make the funny YouTube bot like my stuff. You can follow me on Twitter where I post nothing but good takes, and you can also join my Discord down below where we talk about My Hero Academia and ReZero, and also you can suggest video ideas in that Discord now, so that's pretty cool. Yep, thanks. See ya.